Ugluk stopped, confusion warring with rage as the stench of cauterized flesh filled the air. There was no clang of swords, only the rhythmic pew-pew-pew of the rifles and the wet thuds of bodies hitting the mud. "Jedi, with me!" Anakin shouted, leaping over the defensive line. He moved faster than any elf. He was a blur of motion, and Uruk swung a heavy axe. Anakin didn't even parry. He simply sidestepped and severed the creature's arm and head in one fluid motion. The lightsaber cut through the steel axe shaft effortlessly. Ahsoka Tano, wielding her two Shoto sabers, was a whirlwind of acrobatics. She vaulted over a berserker, slicing his hamstrings before decapitating him on the landing. "They have no blasters," she called out, sounding almost disappointed. "They're using primitive slug throwers and blades." "Do not underestimate them, Snips," Anakin retorted, force-pushing a group of 10 Uruks into a rock face with enough force to shatter their spines. "They fight with the ferocity of Trandoshans." In the chaos, Merry and Pippin, dropped by their dead captors, crawled into the tall grass. They watched in sheer disbelief. They had heard tales of the wizards, but these beings were different. They didn't speak in riddles. They moved like lightning and killed with beams of captured sunlight. Within 5 minutes, the Uruk-hai raiding party, the elite of Isengard, was annihilated. Not a single clone trooper had fallen. Obi-Wan deactivated his saber and surveyed the carnage. "Primitive," he mused, kicking a crude iron helmet, "but organized. This bears the mark of a military-industrial complex, however archaic. We are not on an uninhabited wild space planet." "General," Rex approached, holding a trembling Merry and Pippin by their collars. "We found locals. Non-combatants, appears to be a subspecies of human." Obi-Wan knelt, his face softening into the diplomat's mask he wore so well. "Hello there. We mean you no harm. I am General Kenobi of the Galactic Republic. Can you tell us where we are?" Merry, ever the bolder one, swallowed hard. You saved us. Are you from Valinor? Are you sent by the elves?" "We are from Coruscant," Ahsoka said, tilting her head. "What is a Valinor?" Before the hobbits could answer, the ground trembled again. But this was not the crash, it was horses. The riders of Rohan, led by Yomer, had been hunting the Uruks. They crested the hill, fully expecting to find orcs. Instead, they found a burning field, piles of dismembered Uruks, a mountain of metal that touched the clouds, and an army of white-clad sorcerers. Aemir signaled a halt, his spear raised, fear evident in his eyes. The horses were panicked by the smell of the starship. "I am Aemir, 3rd Marshal of the Rittermark," he shouted, his voice cracking slightly against the hum of the ship's cooling systems. "Identify yourselves. Are you servants of the White Hand or the Dark Lord?" Anakin stepped forward. His patience, already thin from the crash, was evaporating. He sensed the suspicion, the fear, and the latent aggression in these riders. "We serve neither, and I suggest you lower your spears before you hurt yourselves." "Anakin," Obi-Wan warned, placing a hand on his former Padawan's shoulder. He turned to Aemir. "We are travelers from far away. Our vessel crashed. We are peacekeepers." "Peacekeepers?" Aemir looked at the carnage of the Uruks. The bodies were burned, cauterized, no blood. "You kill with lightning. That is sorcery. In these lands, sorcery belongs to the enemy." "We are Jedi," Anakin said, his voice dropping an octave, "and you are testing my patience." While the standoff ensued on the ground, a far darker conversation was happening in the ether. In the dark tower of Barad-dûr, Sauron was paralyzed by confusion. For thousands of years, he had studied the music of the Ainur. He knew the fundamental laws of Arda. Magic came from the Valar, the Maiar, or the inherent spirit of the land. But this new energy was alien. It was not bound by the song of creation. It was raw, chaotic, and incredibly potent. He turned his great eye toward the crash site. He tried to pierce the minds of the newcomers. He encountered barriers of durasteel will. The clones were blank slates, their minds identical, disciplined, hard to corrupt individually. But the leaders... He found Anakin. Anakin Skywalker was a beacon in the Force. He shone like a supernova. But within that light, Sauron saw the cracks. Fear, anger, attachment, the fear of loss, the desire for control. It was a flavor Sauron knew intimately. It was the flavor of Morgoth. "Who are you?" Sauron's voice whispered across the void, bypassing language, striking directly into Anakin's limbic system. Anakin stiffened, his hand going to his head. "Get out," he muttered. "You are powerful," the voice continued, seductive and heavy like molten gold. "But you are lost. You seek to save those you love. I can show you how. I have conquered death." "Anakin," Ahsoka touched his arm. "What's wrong?" Anakin shook his head, the mental intrusion fading, but leaving a cold residue. "This planet, the dark side is strong here. It's focused. It's not just a field of energy, it has a consciousness." The Jedi Council, or rather the emergency command triad of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, convened in the wreckage of the bridge. The ship's long-range sensors were down, but short-range scanners and tactical droids were operational. "We have scanned the radio frequencies," Rex reported. "Silence. No subspace comms. No holonet. We are completely isolated. However, we are detecting massive troop movements to the east and west. Primitive armies, hundreds of thousands." "This is a war zone," Obi-Wan concluded. "And by the look of those creatures we fought, the sides are clearly defined. We cannot intervene in a planetary civil war. It violates the codes." "People are dying, Master," Ahsoka argued. "Did you see those orcs? They eat prisoners. We can't just sit here and fix the ship while genocide happens." "Ahsoka is right," Anakin said, his eyes darkening. "Besides, that presence I felt, it attacked me, mentally. If we stay here, we will be hunted. We need to neutralize the threat." "Neutralize?" Obi-Wan raised an eyebrow. "Anakin, we don't even know who the government is." "We know who the aggressors are." Anakin pointed to the tactical map where red dots, Uruks and orcs, were swarming. "We go to the source. The locals mentioned a wizard in a tower to the west, Saruman. He commands these Uruks. We start there. We demand answers. If he is hostile, we remove him." It was decided. The Grand Army of the Republic would bring peace to Middle-earth, whether Middle-earth wanted it or not. They left a garrison to guard the Resolute. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and a battalion of the 501st, 500 clones, 3 ATRT walkers, and 2 BARC speeders moved out. They didn't ride horses. They marched with the mechanical rhythm of the Clone Wars. Merry and Pippin, terrified but fascinated, tagged along. They rode on the back of an ATRT walker, clutching the metal struts. "Wait until Gandalf sees this," Pippin whispered. The march to Isengard took 2 days. For the Ents of Fangorn Forest, it was a time of great disturbance. Treebeard watched from the tree line as the white-armored column passed. He did not attack. He sensed that these were not orcs. They did not cut trees needlessly. In fact, he saw Anakin Skywalker pause and touch a tree, frowning, sensing the life inside. "These trees, they are awake," Anakin had muttered, "like on Felucia." When they arrived at the Ring of Isengard, the scale of the conflict shifted. Saruman the White stood on the balcony of Orthanc. He had seen them in the Palantir. He was terrified. He had thought to ally with them, but as they approached, he realized their power was not magical. It was technological and something else. The Uruk-hai army, 10,000 strong, manned the walls. They beat their shields and roared. Anakin Skywalker walked to the front of the gates. He didn't shout. He amplified his voice with the Force. "I am General Skywalker of the Galactic Republic. You are commanding an illegal army hostile to the civilian populace. Stand down and surrender your authority, or we will be forced to intervene." Saruman, his pride stung, laughed. His voice, amplified by magic, boomed down. "You speak of authority? I am Saruman the White. I speak for the powers of this world. You are but shipwrecked vagabonds." He raised his staff. A bolt of lightning summoned from the storm clouds arced down toward Anakin. It never hit. Anakin raised his hand, and using Tudamini's energy absorption, he caught the lightning. It crackled in his gloved palm, a ball of pure white energy, before he crushed it into nothingness. "Negotiations have failed," Anakin said dryly. He turned to Rex. "Commander, take the wall." "Yes, sir. All units, focus fire on the main gate structure. ATRTs, suppress the archers. The Battle of Isengard lasted exactly 14 minutes. The clone troopers didn't rush the walls with ladders. They stood out of bow range and unleashed a torrent of blaster fire. The wooden gates of Isengard, reinforced with iron, exploded under the thermal stress. The stone walls, hammered by the heavy laser cannons of the ATRTs, crumbled. The Uruk-hai archers died before they could loose their arrows. When the gates fell, the Jedi charged. This time, it was a slaughter. He looked east, toward the mountain of fire that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Obi-Wan, hold the city!" Anakin shouted. "I'm going to Mordor!" "Anakin, no, it's a trap!" Obi-Wan yelled, parrying a blow from the Witch King. Anakin didn't listen. He jumped into a bark speeder. "Ahsoka, with me!" Ahsoka hesitated, then jumped on the rear stabilizers. The speeder revved and shot out of the city gates, tearing across the battlefield, running over orcs, speeding directly toward the Black Gate. Anakin Skywalker was going to challenge the Dark Lord to a duel. He didn't know that in the shadows of Mount Doom, the One Ring was waking up, sensing a master far more potent than a small hobbit. It called out to the Chosen One. "Come to me, Skywalker. I am the balance you seek." As the speeder blurred across the wastes of Ithilien, leaving a trail of dust, the atmosphere shifted. The light of the sun failed completely. They were entering the land of shadow. Ahsoka yelled over the wind. "Anakin, I sense a trap! The Force here, it's like a webs! I will cut through it!" Anakin screamed back, his eyes fixed on the fiery summit of Orodruin. He wasn't driving the speeder anymore. He was willing it forward with the Force, pushing the engine past its critical limits. They reached the Black Gate. It was closed. Anakin didn't stop. He fired the speeder's forward cannons, blasting the locking mechanism, and used a massive force push to blow the iron doors inward. They flew into Mordor. The barren plain of Gorgoroth stretched before them, and there, waiting for them, was not an army, but a single figure. A mouth, the mouth of Sauron. He rode a skeletal horse. He grinned with rotting teeth. "The Master welcomes you," he hissed. "He has prepared a place for you at his right hand." Anakin slowed the speeder. He dismounted, his lightsaber humming. "Where is he?" "Everywhere," the mouth laughed. "But if you wish to see his flesh, come to the tower." Anakin decapitated the mouth of Sauron before the creature finished the sentence. "Talks too much," he muttered. But as the head fell, the ground shook. From the ash, the 9 Nazgul, who had abandoned the siege of Minas Tirith to protect their master, materialized in a circle around Anakin and Ahsoka. And this time, they were not alone. Sauron poured his will into them, giving them tangible forms of shadow and flame. And above them, on the balcony of Barad-dûr, the great eye compressed, forming a silhouette of a man in armor, burning with an inner light that rivaled the heart of a star. Sauron had taken physical form to greet his guest. Anakin looked up at the Dark Lord. He felt the pull, not of the dark side he knew, but of something older. Domination. "Ahsoka," Anakin said quietly, "if I fall—" "You won't fall, Sky Guy," she said, though her voice trembled. Anakin ignited his second lightsaber, a red one he had taken from Asajj Ventress years ago and kept as a memento trophy. Blue in one hand, red in the other. Balance or conflict? "Let's bring peace to this hellhole," Anakin whispered, and launched himself toward the Dark Tower. The clash of blue and red plasma against the void armor of the Dark Lord sent shockwaves through the metaphysical plane of Arda. Anakin Skywalker did not fight like an elf, with dancing grace, nor like a dwarf, with grounded fury. He fought like a machine breaking apart. His strikes were heavy, kinetic bombardments. He used Gemso, the form of the Krayt Dragon, meeting Sauron's supernatural strength with immediate, overwhelming counterforce. Sauron wielded a mace of black iron that seemed to drink the light around it. Every swing was a tectonic event, shattering the obsidian floor of the bridge to Barad-dûr. But Anakin was faster. He was a blur of premonition. He didn't just dodge. He was already moving before Sauron decided to strike. "Your strength is fading, Maya," Anakin roared, ducking under a horizontal swing that decapitated a stone gargoyle. He slashed his blue saber across Sauron's midsection. The blade bit deep, cutting through the physical manifestation of the Dark Lord's armor. But instead of blood, liquid shadow and fire spilled out, hissing as it touched the ground. Sauron stumbled back, laughing. It was a terrible, wet sound. You carve meat, Skywalker, but I am not meat. I am the will of this world. Can you cut an idea? Sauron raised his hand. He didn't use lightning. He used gravity. The sheer weight of Mordor, the crushing despair of 1,000 years of slavery, slammed into Anakin. The Jedi General was forced to his knees, the stone cracking beneath his boots. His mechanical arm whined in protest. You struggle, Sauron whispered, stepping closer, his mace raised for the killing blow. You fight the inevitable. Your republic is a lie. Your council is a cage. Kneel, kneel, and I will give you the galaxy. I kneel to no one. Anakin grit his teeth. He reached deep into the Force. He didn't reach for the light. It was too far away here. He reached for the pain, the fear of losing Padme, the frustration with Obi-Wan, the pure, unadulterated power of the dark side. He exploded upwards, a force push of such magnitude that it stripped the atmosphere from the bridge. Sauron was blasted backward, his heavy armor screeching against the stone. He flew through the air and slammed into the wall of his own tower, embedding deeply into the masonry. While the Titans fought, the battle for Minas Tirith had devolved into a meat grinder. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood atop the white walls, his robe singed, his face smeared with grime. The zombie clones were the worst. They still had their helmet comms on. He could hear them clicking and gurgling over the general channel. Rex, Obi-Wan shouted over the roar of battle. Ammo status. Critical, General. Power packs are at 5%. We are down to hand-to-hand combat. Rex was using his dual blasters as clubs now, smashing the skulls of orcs who scaled the ladders. Below them, the gates of Minas Tirith had been breached, not by Gron, but by the sheer mass of bodies. The trolls were inside. But then, the wind changed. From the river Anduin, the black ships arrived. Aragorn leaped from the lead ship, and Durrell flaming in the sun, leading the army of the dead. The ghost army swept through the orcs like a scythe through wheat. Obi-Wan watched, appalled and fascinated. Weaponized spirits, he muttered. The council would never approve. Aragorn fought his way to the courtyard, looking up at the Jedi. General Kenobi, the king shouted. The city holds. For now, Obi-Wan replied. But his eyes were not on the battle. They were fixed on the east. He felt a disturbance, a shift in the cosmic balance so profound it made him nauseous. Anakin, he whispered, what have you done? Back in Mordor, the duel had moved. Anakin had pursued Sauron up the winding stairs of Barad-dûr, destroying the architecture as they went. They were now at the pinnacle, the very platform where the Great Eye had rested. Sauron was battered. His physical form was failing. Anakin had severed his mace hand, but the Dark Lord was smiling, because he felt it. The ring. It was close. Frodo and Sam had reached the Samath Nor. They were inside the cracks of doom, but they were not alone. Gollum was there, and now Anakin Skywalker sensed it too. He paused, his lightsaber humming near Sauron's throat. He looked toward the volcano. The source, Anakin whispered. Your life force. It's in the mountain. It is the key, Sauron rasped, his form flickering like a dying candle. Go to it, Jedi. Take it. Destroy it, if you can. Anakin didn't hesitate. He didn't kill Sauron. He sensed that killing this body was meaningless as long as the artifact existed. He jumped from the tower. He fell for 3 seconds before landing on the back of a passing fell beast, hijacking the creature midair. He drove his lightsaber into its neural cluster, steering it with pain and the Force. The beast shrieked and dove toward Mount Doom. Ahsoka, fighting the remaining Nazgul on the ground, saw him. Anakin, wait! He didn't wait. He crashed the beast into the side of the volcano and sprinted into the tunnel. The heat was enough to melt lead, but Anakin used a force bubble to shield himself. Inside the Chamber of Fire, the drama reached its climax. Frodo stood at the edge of the precipice. He held the ring. He was weeping. Throw it, Sam screamed. Mr. Frodo. The ring is mine, Frodo snarled, his face twisted. He put it on. He vanished. The chamber shook. Sauron's power surged. But then, a red lightsaber blade ignited, cutting through the smoky air. I see you, Anakin said. He wasn't looking with his eyes. He reached out with the Force and grabbed the invisible hobbit. He lifted Frodo into the air, choking him. "Anakin, stop!" Obi-Wan Kenobi stood at the entrance. He had arrived on one of the Republic gunships that had finally managed to reboot its engines and cross the river. He ran onto the walkway. "Let him go, Anakin. The ring must be destroyed." Anakin held the invisible, struggling hobbit. "Destroy it? Master, look at this power. This is not just magic. It's a focal point, a generic amplifier. With this, I can impose order on this chaotic world. I can stop the orcs. I can stop the war. I can save everyone." "You sound like Dooku," Obi-Wan pleaded. "It is evil, Anakin. It corrupts everything it touches." "From my point of view, the Jedi are holding back the galaxy," Anakin yelled. "We have the technology, the power, and yet we let politicians run everything into the ground. Here I can make things right." He pulled the ring from Frodo's invisible finger. Frodo materialized, gasping, falling to the floor. Sam scrambled to cover him. Anakin held the One Ring. It was small, gold, simple. It whispered to him in the voice of Padme. "Anakin, you can save me. You can stop death." "Don't do it, Anakin!" Ahsoka ran in behind Obi-Wan. "Please!" Anakin looked at the ring. Then he looked at Sauron, who had dragged his broken essence to the entrance of the cave. Sauron watched, hungry. "You want this?" Anakin asked Sauron. "It belongs to me," Sauron hissed. "No," Anakin said coldly. "You failed." Anakin didn't put the ring on his finger. That would be crude. Instead, he did something only a techno-savant would do. He dismantled the hilt of his mechanical arm. He placed the ring into the power core slot of his cybernetic limb. He integrated the One Ring into his own cybernetics. The reaction was instantaneous. Gold veins of fire shot up his arm, burning through the synthetic skin, fusing with his nerves, rewiring his midi-chlorians. The Force and the magic of Middle-earth collided and fused. Anakin screamed. It was a scream that shattered the remaining glass in Barad-dûr. His eyes turned from blue to the burning yellow of the Sith, and then to a fiery, slit-pupiled orange. The shockwave blew the top off Mount Doom. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka were thrown back by a wave of pure telekinetic pressure. When the dust settled, Anakin stood there. But he was changed. His armor was no longer white or brown. The alchemy of the ring had transmuted his clothes into a dark, flowing weave of shadow cloth. His mechanical arm glowed with runes of fire. He raised his hand. Outside, on the plains of Gorgoroth, the hundreds of thousands of orcs suddenly stopped fighting. They dropped their weapons. They turned toward the mountain and knelt, not to Sauron, to the new master. Sauron shrieked as his connection was severed. Anakin reached out and crushed Sauron's spirit. He didn't destroy it, he absorbed it. He ate the Dark Lord's essence to fuel his own battery. "Anakin?" Obi-Wan whispered, igniting his saber. "Anakin is gone." The voice was deep, synthesized, layering the mechanical vocoder with the guttural speech of Mordor. "There is only order." He looked at Obi-Wan. "Leave. Take your ship. Take the halflings. Go back to the stars if you can fix the hyperdrive. This world is mine." "I cannot do that," Obi-Wan said sadly. He settled into his stance. "Then you will die." The fight lasted 3 seconds. Anakin didn't use a lightsaber. He clenched his fist. The magma in the pit below rose up, shaping itself into a hand of fire, and swatted Obi-Wan Kenobi out of the volcano. Ahsoka grabbed the unconscious general and leaped onto the gunship, piloting it away as the mountain began to restructure itself, not collapsing but forming into a fortress of geometry and black steel. Epilogue: The Age of Steel. 3 years later, the Shire was no longer green. The rolling hills had been flattened to make way for the strip mines. The Hobbit holes were now concrete bunkers, housing the workers who processed the Tabana gas found deep beneath the Brandywine River. There were no more wars in Middle-earth. There was no crime. There was no hunger. There was also no song, no laughter, and no art. In the center of Minas Tirith, the White Tree had been uprooted. In its place stood a massive shield generator that protected the city from orbital bombardment. The flag of the Republic, altered, the cogwheel now spiked like the eye, flew from the citadel. Aragorn sat in a cell in the dungeons. He was not tortured, he was simply irrelevant. The king had no power in a technocracy. In the throne room, the emperor sat. He wore a mask now, a rebreather unit necessitated by the toxic fumes he had inhaled during the reformation of Orodruin. He sat on a throne made of fused lightsabers and Morgul blades. Commander Rex, now wearing gray armor with red markings, approached. He looked older, tired. The inhibitor chip had been removed, but loyalty was a hard habit to break. Lord Vader, Rex said, saluting, the elves in Lothlorien are refusing the census. Galadriel has put up a mist barrier. Vader tapped his finger on the armrest. The one ring embedded in his knuckle pulsed. Burn the forest, Vader ordered. Use the thermal detonators and prepare the Resolute for launch. The hyperdrive is fixed. Sir? Rex hesitated. Where are we going? Vader stood up. He walked to the balcony and looked up at the stars. He could feel Palpatine out there. He could feel the Jedi Council. They were chaotic. They were inefficient. They needed guidance. We are going back, Commander, Vader said, his voice echoing with the power of two universes. We are going to bring peace to the galaxy, and I have an army of Uruk-hai who are very eager to see the stars. As the retrofitted Star Destroyer lifted off from the ruin of Mordor, its hull reinforced with mithril and its cannons enchanted with dark sorcery, the people of Middle-earth watched in silence. They had been saved from the Dark Lord, only to be enslaved by the Chosen One. The age of magic was over. The age of the Empire had begun.